How's it going, everybody? This is Tim with Rudder Marketing. We're here over here doing the webinar podcast series, Clear Prop. Today we have Plain English. So we got Kate Muharrem with us today. There are our special guests today in the webinar. Give a round of applause to them. So glad to have everybody on the call here. We have a few people coming in here. And it really it's just a great opportunity to meet the team here at Plain English and also to kind of get to know what they do and see how they impacted the flight training industry. So I guess we'll get started right away. I don't know. How are you guys feeling over there?
Yeah, that works for us.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So I guess really briefly, we do these webinars every month, every third Wednesday or third Thursday of the month. And we really what I like to do is either we do a topic on, marketing, which is like SEO, website development, how to impact growth in flight schools. Or we also bring in special guests. So, a couple months ago we had NAFI over here, and then now we have Plain English. So if there's anyone out there watching this that wants to be a guest in our podcast webinar, just send me an email, then we'll get you on here. So maybe we have, you can give this quick intro, Kate and Muharrem, of who you are, what you guys do, and what Plain English is.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you everybody for joining. I'm Muharrem Mane, CEO and co-founder of Plain English, and I guess she'll speak for herself, but Kate is here too. So myself, I'm a aerospace engineer by training, and have been involved and created and put together Plain English since about 2018, 2019. I do run Plain English. I also have my other part-time work at Purdue University, where I am a researcher, and I am part of the FAA Center of Excellence for General Aviation, Pegasus, where I am the associate director. So that we do research or manage research associated with general aviation. And yeah, I'll be excited to talk about Plain English today, though. I'll pass it over to Kate.
Hi, I am Kate Mane, and I'm just the director for Plain English. So I am the marketing director. Sorry.
Just the director, yeah.
Just the director. the marketing. I meant to say the marketing department for Plain English. Yeah, we've been doing this since 2018. I have a background in marketing, did my MBA at Purdue also. And yeah, I'm excited to answer some questions about marketing.
That's cool, good. Let's get started right away. So, I'm a pilot, so I kind of heard about Plain English when I was doing my private pilot training. It was kind of it somehow got into my media feed and all that stuff. So, kudos to Kate over there for getting that going. Tell us a little bit what Plain English is, what's AR Sim, what is all this stuff, how does it work? What do you guys do?
All right. Yes. So Plain English. So it's the company that we created back in 2018, and AR Sim, the aviation radio simulator, is the simulator that the product that Plain English offers. AR Sim is a aviation radio simulator. So it simulates talking on the radio to air traffic controllers. Be their center ground tower. It has a built-in training curriculum. So, like students can start from the very beginning to how do I say the phonetic alphabet? How do I pronounce altitude, numbers, and so forth, all the way to shooting instrument approaches. And they do this. So that's a curriculum. So coupled with the simulator, it gives student and pilots the ability to really press the mic, make their request. We score them, give them feedback right away on the things that they got correct, incorrect, how fast they're talking, if they said extra words, they're missing words. And then they get to hear air traffic control talk back to them, giving them the clearances, the instructions, and do that entire dance back and forth. In the beginning scenarios, you might have, or lessons that we have, one or two exchanges. If you're doing those instrument approaches, 5, 6, 7, 8 exchanges with air traffic control. Obviously, if you're doing non-towered airports, you're just talking to yourself, you're making those announcements, but you get the feedback. The ATC entities in the tool, they are simulated air traffic controllers, so it's an AI and a synthetic entity that provides that capability, which while it's not a real person, but it gives great flexibility into creating literally thousands of scenarios that you can run through. The tool itself is available on mobile devices, Android, iOS, as well as on the web. We created, so myself and the other two co-founders, and we started on this in 2018, and that was after about 3-4 years about playing around with the idea. So two of us were pilots. When we were going through, just like you, going through the training, this was one of the things that we noticed. Obviously, I remember, getting on the plane on that very first time. I got to taxi the airplane, right? I got to, well, it started to took off, and then I got, took the control as soon as we were out of the pattern, but he never let me speak on the radio for the past 3 or 4 flights. So, and even when I started talking, I had the thing about rehearsing things. Okay, I'm going to say this, press the mic, and quiet. Everything just, out of the head. So this was, we've been, we're going through training. We had the CB or whatever, like radios, like, listening to tower and try to get that, get used to what that sounded like, and kind of, so hey, it would be really neat if you can actually practice this and get some experience doing this outside of the airplane in a more stress-free like environment when you're not doing anything else. So it started from there as a side project, and we managed to convince another a friend of ours to do on the development side. He had that know-how, and so we got all together and managed to, I think the first, it was an Android mobile version that came out in early 2019, and then we've been continuing since then.
So that's how you started, and that's how you kind of been growing. It's where are you guys now? So how many active users do you guys have? How many flight schools have you partnered with? What other kind of accolades and accomplishments that you kind of brag about before we go into the questions here? You gave us the past. How about the current landscape? What's the current snapshot? Where are you guys at? And
so we have, so right now we have about, so if you look at like one of the typical metrics, over 650,000 downloads that are from, again, Android, iOS, and then obviously, I mean, we have users, not downloads on the web. They are probably about half of those, a little bit more than half, in the US, and the rest across the world. I don't know, over 100 some countries. So that's about in terms of downloads. Customers and users, they're a mix. So we have about half of our business and users are just individual pilots that they try the app with that free access and free material that we provide, and they buy a subscription. And so those are anywhere from student pilots. We have pilots that just like fly simulators, just on the sims. We have your typical, well, not typical, but rusty, like pilots. So people that used to fly, but have had a 5, 10, 15-year break, they're getting back into it. So individual users, and then the other kind of like customer base is flight schools and flight training institutions. So flight schools, it can be, so thinking like Part 61, I guess, and some in Part 141, and then training institutions, so some universities and training academies for airlines. And that one, again, both of those are a mix of US and outside of the US. Again, the customers both, when we describe what AR Sim and does, you might think that people that don't speak English would need it more, or they would be the only one needing it. But again, most of our customers are in the US, English speaking, that just want to have or need this this training tool to really speak that separate language, right? That is
Yeah.
aviation comms.
I think you kind of hit onto a good question here. So like, I know what it is, but like when pilots first start training, like what challenges do you kind of see in their training as far as radio communications? You know, is it a nervous thing? Is it a psychology thing, or is it how do you kind of I guess depict that as far as like challenges with private pilots and all that stuff?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I think we might have a hot mic, somebody there.
Yeah, I just muted it.
So,
There you go.
okay.
Sorry, Ed.
Yeah, I think so. It's a little bit of kind of like what we hear, like from our customers and users, and then partly our own experience. It's a little bit of it's a mix, right? So so if you're not familiar with something, you haven't done it before, there's going to be nervousness and like associated with it no matter what, right? So, but it is so not knowing, well, when we first, any student, that gets to hear a traffic controller speak, and if you haven't been exposed to it, there is that you don't really understand what's going on. Like half of the words don't make any sense at all, right? So there is that unfamiliarity of it that creates confusion and that lack of understanding. And then even after what we see that the instructors like are explaining what they're hearing, what they're supposed to say, it's that practice in trying to actually remember those 3, 4, 5 key pieces of information that you have to say. So it's that what brings that intimidation from what we've seen and heard and experienced. So it's unfamiliarity and inexperience in having done it.
Yeah, I think for me it was just mainly like I did my discovery flight. This was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember my CFI, was with me, and he took the plane off, and it was a non-towered airport, and then he was saying, "Oh yeah, Creve Coeur, Cessna 172 in the pattern, whatever he was saying," and I was just like, "What is it, guys?" I was going over my head like, "Oh my god, what is this? Is he talking to somebody? What is he going on?" And no one's responding, but when you're on Unicom or whatever CTAF, everyone's kind of just blasting what they're saying. Hey, I'm 5 miles from downwind, going to do a teardrop entry, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So I think definitely there's some like just unfamiliarity that comes with it, and I do think I don't know, maybe you can speak on this a little bit, but I do think a lot of it gets kind of remedied during instrument training. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm kind of curious to see like this is not kind of on our questions here, but like on fraction or on percentages, how many of the pilots or how many of the students that work with Plain English are primarily private students, and how many are like instrument and beyond? I mean, is majority just kind of like getting into the aviation industry, or are they kind of like trying to revamp their skills, or where do you see kind of like the people needing the most help?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm one of the kind of like insights beside just talking to individual users by looking at the type of licenses. So we offer licenses in VFR comms, IFR comms, and combined. We look at those. Probably about 60% or so are VFR only. So that gives you an idea. So it's probably the ones on that private pilot, the beginning like of things, and then the other 40% it's either like IFR or a mix. So we're finding it again. It's that beginning. I think you're right that like, well, I don't know if it's things maybe fall into place when you get into your instrument training, or that's, I mean, you've been flying for a while too, right? So you're more comfortable with some things, but again, there are new things that
There's a
show
lot of
up
new things in instrument, yeah.
that you hadn't seen before. Well, there are new things,
Yeah.
and then a lot of other things that you have to do and try and remember. So
Yeah, like getting an instrument clearance, for example, or getting, I think those are all like the craft and everything. Getting that type of stuff is or approach procedure or whatever it is. I think a lot of that is really challenging. And then when you couple that, now I'm talking about instrument stuff. You couple, hey, do a hold, south of this waypoint, right turn, 3-minute hold. And you don't know what that is, and then you got to couple the communication aspect with actually the physical, tangible hey, how do I fly this freaking plane? It's like, what am I doing here?
Right.
And then, if you're in this, we do it all in foggles, but when you're actually in the soup, it's a real challenge, I think, and I think that helps. I think you guys kind of help that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and what we've, again, I mean, part of like the reason and the way that we describe it, but a lot of the feedback that we received, it's, the benefit that it provides pilots is, having a way to practice this, focused, when you're not doing anything else, right? It gives them the opportunity to become comfortable with it. So whenever they're getting on the airplane, then it's one less thing that they're thinking about. So it frees up, some of that brain space so you can handle and do those other things. And I mean, we've heard, from instructors, like at flight schools and at some of these, like airline academies, that they can tell the difference in their students, that they can not just they're more comfortable and proficient when they're talking, but even how they're doing the rest of the maneuvers or the rest of the training, because it's just one less thing that they're seeing. Well, we have last couple of months, I think like at least 2 DPEs that reached out to us, just, hey, I just heard about you guys, and actually from their students. So they were giving them a check ride, and the DPE commented like, hey, your radios are, like on the money, and they told them like, hey, I've been using this tool. So it was kind of really neat, like to hear. But so the instructor, the examiners, I mean, can tell that there is something, like happening there, and making them, proficient, comfortable with the rest of their flying.
Yeah. I'm going to change gears here for a second. So, we're talking about how it helps, the aviation industry, how it helps student pilots really get more comfortable with the radio. And I do think that there's some evidence here. So you said over 600,000 people have used this app. You partnered with flight schools all across the world, even in the US, and my curiosity here really is, how did you acquire your first, 100,000 customers? What did you do to kind of market? And this kind of goes to the, I'm a marketing agency. So kind of want to bring in some marketing, voodoo here. What do you do to get started? What do you do to like advertise to get your word out to the masses? Because a lot of flight schools, and I think, a lot of people that watch this after the webinar, they look at, what's this guy talking about? And they always ask, how do I market my school better? How do I get more students in my school? Obviously we're all different type of companies. I'm a marketing agency. You're a software app. And then flight schools are, pilot training, right? But they're all, marketing in itself is not really industry specific. There's a lot of fundamentals that have to be kind of taken into consideration. I like to call it 3 M's, like, your market, your message, and your media. What platforms are you using? What are you saying on that platform, and like who are you targeting? Those are the, that's what I like to say for the 3 M's. What did you guys do? How did you guys get, you've been at it for a bit, it's been more than 5 years. It's 2018, you said, right?
Yeah.
So, they say like there's a small business association says after 5 years, like 80% of businesses die, right? So obviously you did something right. So what did you do correctly? And what advice could you give to future flight schools to market their own school?
Okay.
I can speak to this. In the beginning, it was, a lot of trial and error. And I think we had the benefit of, we released iOS in January of 2020, so right before COVID hit. And so that was kind of a huge area of boom for us when we were able to like capture so many of those customers, because everyone was inside looking to learn, sharpen up their skills, not able to fly for that 3-month period. So we just did a lot of Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising. And then shortly after, once things started opening up again, we did email flows, which those have been probably the best investment for us, because I'm one person of the marketing department, so I'm the entire marketing department. So we have to be very efficient in the time resources, and flows. You set them up and then they run themselves on the email. So that's been very helpful for us. And I tell Maram probably at least once a week that he did a great thing with the name of the company, Plain English, because it's very sticky. About 70% of our traffic comes from organic or direct search. So people just typing in plain English in the Google search bar. So a challenge of that is trying to figure out, okay, how did these people hear about it? Because they're remembering plain English, but they're hearing about it from their CFI or from instructors, from friends. So now we're kind of trying to move on to that social aspect of how can we get friends to refer friends. Yeah, but I would say a big thing for us remains the Facebook marketing and Instagram marketing.
So I think, yeah, so my experiences with like ads, we run ads for flight schools all across America. How do we filter out, this is more a question for myself, not for like you guys, I guess. How do we filter out like low quality leads on Facebook? Because some of our clients pay like $1,000 or so on Facebook ads. And I kind of say like, hey, by the way, Facebook, you have to understand the platform. Facebook and Instagram, people are looking for pictures of cats, people are looking for pictures of dogs, dancing videos. When you show them an ad about flight schools, when you show them an ad about, AR Sim or plain English, it's kind of just like a tangent out of nowhere. So how do we like filter out those bad leads? I don't know, maybe I don't know if you have the answer to that, but
Yeah, I mean, we actually use Facebook and Instagram mainly for brand awareness, for name awareness, name recognition. So that then at a later time, when they hear it somewhere else or see it somewhere else, they'll be, oh, I remember their blue and yellow logo or, some ad that they've seen of ours. And then we found that if you're looking for those direct sales, if you're actually looking for that one-to-one sale from the click, Google, it has performed best always, because people go to Google when they're looking to buy something, when they're looking to make a decision. People have been using Facebook to get informed, see what their friends are talking about. So mainly we use those Facebook and Instagram for awareness and to spread information. So we'll use our blog posts as ads a lot of times to drive people to the site, and then once they're there, they'll search around and figure out what we do.
I think you mentioned something that I didn't touch on earlier, is like blog posting. So a lot of clients and a lot of flight schools I work with, they're a little adverse to blog posting. They're like, do I want to start a blog? And I'm like, hey, we'll write the articles for you. And I know for plain English, if you look up like how to improve radio communication, I think it's not really your main website. It's actually a blog post, right? That pops up like #1 on Google. So maybe can you kind of talk about what a blog is and what's the benefit of using a blog? Maybe that kind of helps with
Yeah, for sure. Oh, sorry, I was getting like feedback. Yeah, and we also have, I think, our flight following article and how to decode ATIS. And
yeah, that was a popular one. Yeah, that was a very popular I saw on
PyReps
Google.
is also very popular. So what I did was look at communication related topics that are sort of that mystify people that come up a lot so I looked in a lot of like the Facebook groups, like the student pilot communities. What are people asking? What are people wanting to know continually? So like every couple months, people will ask the same questions in these student pilot groups because you get new crops of pilots, right? And so I was just seeing what are these constant themes, and people don't understand flight following that well. They have a hard time with, ATIS and METARs. Also, so anyway, the benefit I think of a blog is that you do it one time, and then you can continually update it year over year, which we do. We go in and we update the blogs. But once you write that blog piece, you can use that in your email flows. You can use that in short little snippets for your post. So one blog post could give you like 12 pieces of content for your social, or for the email flows is a big one. You don't need that many blog posts, but they need to be quality. And I think one concern right now is in marketing circles that I'm in, that I've heard is, using Chat GPT, people using Chat GPT or AI to write these blog posts. And they're not as, it's hard to detect because people are having other people write the blog posts for them, agencies and stuff like that. So I think that if you're going to write a blog, make sure that it's quality, like high quality, and you're answering questions with some sort of credible authority. So you're pointing back to these credible sources and you're synthesizing what these credible sources are saying, if that makes sense. But I think it's, for our strategy, for our SEO, it's been just incredible.
Yeah,
I see our search results just, increase all the time based on these blogs.
I
And
think you hit
if
the
I
nail on
might
the head
add,
here.
so,
Oh, yeah, keep going. Sorry.
yeah, no, just one thing to Kate's, the thing about, writing the blog, you want to get, like the most, like out of it, provide something useful. But the quality part of it, I mean, it is important, right? Because, like anybody can say, hey, whoever wrote this, it's either just doing it, just to, because they're linking a bunch of keywords together, and trying to get picked up by an engine, instead of just providing, like useful information. And, while it is, sometimes can be a pain to upkeep them and keep them relevant. I mean, we found, we have, well, besides ourselves, we have, part of our team that we use, obviously not full time because it can be that busy, but there are actual, like more experienced, professional pilots, like air traffic controllers, that contribute to those and, to give it that quality and that relevance. So, I mean, it's a little bit of, like effort, but, like using, like people that actually know what they're talking about. I mean, I've been flying for years, but still I'm not an air traffic controller, right? So, that's why we have, those guys that, like check the stuff and make their own contribution, which helps to make those blogs, like relevant and be something useful, like I said, and not just, like a list of keywords that we've seen, when we, like on some of the things, and we're like, hey, trying out somebody new, right? And like they're like pure marketing, but no aviation expertise. And you read this stuff, and like it makes my head hurt.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I think the hard part is really understanding what people want. I mean, understanding what people really want in what they're searching for on the internet, what they're looking for. And if you're able to create that voice, if you're able to create that, that article or that post, that content that really speaks to what people are looking for on the internet, then that's how you get found. I think that's the key here. So, when we look with flight schools, we say, hey, how do I get my private pilot certificate? How do I improve my radio communication? These are different topics that we try to do with our flight schools. And I think you guys did the exact same thing. And I think that stuff is just like testament to like, these things work. I mean, a lot of people are looking for the magic bullet. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to hire this marketing agency or whatever, and we're going to get like, we're going to double, triple our business. It's not, it's not like that. It's, how do we create content that actually speaks to our customer base? How do we speak to student pilots? Because that's who we're looking for, is how do we improve the lives of our customers? How do we improve the lives of our students? And I think that's what it is. So, I want to change gears here one more time here. And after that, we'll kind of open the floor up to some questions. So, I work with flight schools and you work with student pilots, but I know that there's some intersection between kind of who we work with, right? And, I think behind the scenes, you guys are doing some partnerships with flight schools across America and across the world. Kind of talk to me about like, if I'm a flight school and I'm looking to really improve my student retention, improve my check ride pass rate, how do I do that if I want to use plain English to kind of throw in the mix there? What can you help if I'm a flight school? If I'm a flight school, how can you help me grow my flight school and make sure my students pass their check ride?
Yeah, I mean, so we provide, again, like it's, like ours is, we see it, like AR Sim as one tool in that flight bag that everybody has, right? And we see it as it provides value to the students and to the schools. What we offer, or kind of like the discussion that we have with flight schools is, in one, so how do we make this tool available? And the easiest one, it's like making them aware, and they in turn making their students aware of the tool itself, right? So it's just a kind of like a promotional partner, right? So there is no funding, there's no commitment from the school itself. They're just telling their students, hey, this is something useful, that will help you as you start your flight training, make your flight training better, make sure that it increases the chance of you getting to the end of it, and finishing. So just providing that awareness. We have affiliate programs, so like if the schools are interested on more actively pushing it, to their students, because they see that benefit. Like we provide kind of like packages of discounts that they can offer their students, right? So hey, if you sometimes create like a landing page when they can send their students, and and anybody that comes like from that school will get a discount, and increases like the likelihood of them of the students getting it, which like it did better for the school. We also then the kind of like the third piece is we provide enterprise licenses and enterprise access. So like a flight school that like we have those like airline academies, they know that they want this for their students. They've kind of some of them like have just like seen the clear need for it. So we set them up with an enterprise license. They buy X number of seats, let's say like 50, 30, 100 seats. They can manage those. They can rotate them. Have a student use it who's used one seat for 3 months, and then another student use it for 3 months, and so on. So it's both cost effective. It gives them a lot of control for it. Typically, what we see both in conversations and the feedback that we get from the schools is that, so some of them are clearly see the need, like, hey, if we give this to our students, so they will be training will be smoother. Obviously they will be more comfortable, like, and confident as they're doing their flying. So it'll be a better experience and increases the likelihood of them, like getting that PPL or an instrument on track, like, or faster, or even saving like one check ride, it's many times more than what RSIM will cost you, right? We have other schools, that see, like having RSIM as part of their toolkit as something that makes them kind of like stand out in the, hey, this is the kind of flight training experience that we provide, right? We provide like high quality training. We have all the tools that you need, and this is something like extra that not every school provides, right? So it's kind of like a selling point for them on that overall training experience that they provide their students. And then obviously, when you go to the kind of like the academies, the ones that, cost and pricing is an issue for everybody, right? But they are, they're more concerned about, they're kind of like pushing, number of graduates, right? Number of pilots that they're producing. So, cutting down on the time that takes, right? If you're, or, like reducing, even if it's by a little bit, those washout rates, right? It's all kind of like, helpful for them from that perspective. The upside that we, the value that we think we also provide besides the training is that because the tool comes with that, like training curriculum in it, then there is no overhead or any extra time that instructors have to spend with their students, right? One, they don't have to, give lecture in the air, hey, you do this way. But even if they've decided to use our tool, there's no instructor required to tell them how to use it. The students can do it on their own. So it's kind of like learn on your own, come prepared, be a little bit more ready. And then if they've gotten that PPL, obviously, so there are a little bit extra advertising, I guess, but the training curriculum, that we have, the pilots can get those FAA wings credits. It's up to 4 credits for VFR, so 2 for VFR comms, 2 credits for IFR of the advanced wings, and then we have an airport module was half a credit. That's a basic one, and then a pattern module is also another credit. So about 5.5 total wings credits that they can get.
I didn't know that. You guys did wing credit? I didn't know that was a FAA kind of approved thing. So you guys have that
Yep.
under wraps there. That's a pretty cool accomplishment. I guess kind of last questions here. So we talked about, you know, how you first started. We talked about challenges in the industry. We talked about what you're doing, what the program is. I guess talk to me a little bit about what your future goals are. What are you projecting? What do you want to do? And then, you know, 2024, 25, maybe 5 years from now, where do you see Plain English evolving to? You know, where do you see the company moving forward to?
Well, I mean, the if I put it into a couple of categories, I guess. So one, it's, you know, making the tool and AR Sim itself better, you know, like continue to improve it. And then the other piece of it, it's getting in the hand of more users and more pilots. So in terms of those capabilities, I don't think since we started, I mean, back in 2018, there have always been, it's never been at rest. There have been, you know, obviously you can improve, you know, fix things, but, you know, like adding features and capabilities is something that we're continuously doing and trying to provide more and more value that comes with the tool. So we have, you know, to go along with that, we have some, you know, new user interface, provide the ability for students and users to kind of like keep track of what they're doing, a little bit more accountability. So, you know, like make sure that they're doing things. We have more capability coming up here. In a couple of weeks, we hope adding some generative AI you know, like features. So allow students to actually, you know, do those, you know, like AI queries, you know, ask about anything in aviation, maybe ask, you know, like, hey, what does it take to get a pilot's license? You know, like what are some of the schools where I can get a pilot's license and so forth. So just like you do like with ChatGPT is the same kind of capability. And then obviously because we're doing communications, so we have dedicated kind of like topics and queries, you know, built in there that are specific to communications. And that one, I think it's a kind of like cool feature. So we actually look both at the documentation. So all the information is coming not just from, you know, AIs and internet, but from those, you know, the JO, you know, 7110, the AIM, you know, the equivalent of, you know, like the ones in the UK and EASA and so forth. And then, you know, like just improving all our experience in terms of, you know, radio chatter, you know, more options for radio chatter. So it makes those scenarios more complicated and or more complex. We're providing advanced training for non-US professional pilots, right? So they, you know, they've been flying for years, but they don't fly outside of their country and into, you know, like very often. So they need to upkeep their kind of like radios in English. So, but again, they're not going to non-towered airports. They're not going to class deltas. You know, think of your DFW, you know, like Newark, New York, you know, those complex, you know, kind of airspaces. And then, you know, like eventually, you know, turn into something that you can plug in into your simulator and, you know, like, and bring this capability with all the assessments, the live feedback, you know, like to that tool. And then in terms of the outreach, I mean, you know, providing more value, and you know, the goal is to get this in the hands of, you know, like more users, obviously, and then, you know, like flight training institutions, which is you know, like a great one. And then we have some other kind of like applications out there for, you know, training ground crews, you know, the folks that, you know, maybe, you know, they're not in the air, but they're still driving around the airports and taxiing airplanes and doing engine run-ups and those sort of things. So that's the goal. Continue to make it better, provide more value for what our customers are getting.
I like that thing you added there because I think it's a hype word. That's a very hype word, and especially in the marketing industry, the AI. You gotta talk about the AI thing, you know. There was an app actually. There was like I think I was on some Facebook group, some student pilot Facebook group, and some guy posted on there, and it was like a check ride AI app where basically the guy programmed a thing where the AI would ask you questions like, hey, you know, if you're planning cross country and you have your grandma with you and she's 300 pounds and you're 150 pounds, can you go? And you're on a Cessna 172 with full tanks, you know. And then the person had to type in a response and it actually parsed the response and then said, hey, yo, well, technically this answer is not right or technically this answer is correct. It's really interesting technology. I don't know if it's all the way there yet. Hopefully, I think there was a big, I think people like to hype things up just because they don't have anything better to talk about. But you know, there is it is definitely evolving. There is definitely some AI kind of stuff that's being thrown in the mix. And you know, for me, I'm actually a programmer and a software engineer also in like kind of the back end here. And the way I look at AI is not really like artificial intelligence. It's more so just code asking. It's a bunch of if-then statements. If this person says this, send this out. That's all it really is. And they just it's people call it an AI. I don't think it's AI. I think it's just programming. that's my thing. So we have some questions in here. We'll kind of move on here. So we have about a couple 10-20 minutes left in this webinar here. We'll go through some questions if anyone has any. Looks like Raul here, he asked, are there any industries that have the same problem with language? So I guess maybe to kind of further go on that, people that don't speak English, first off, do you agree that outside of the US, air traffic control and everyone speaks English? I'm just kind of curious, what's your kind of take on it? Have you flown outside the US?
I have once, I guess, but I mean, not just from the experience, but so my understanding, I guess it shouldn't be a matter of opinion. It's so it within the country, so many countries, and you can speak the language of the whatever language is spoken there. But if you cross, like cross outside of the, like the airspace, then the English is the expected language of aviation. I know, like in Europe, I guess depending where you are, and like kind of like you're on the edge, going from one continent to the next. I think sometimes, especially if they use the same language, I know that you can, they can be flexible and won't ding you, right? If you're speaking in that language, and maybe that happens, like more in South America, for example, right, with Spanish. But if you are going like outside of the country, English is the expected language. And there is, I know we don't see it a lot here, like in the US, but those, the ICAO levels of, like English proficiencies that, they have requirements. If, you have to have a level 4, like on above, to be able to keep your license, speaking of the kind of like professional level. So those are requirements. So it is, the language of aviation is English. Within the country itself, you can speak the language of the country.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. I mean, when I was flying in Panama one time, and everyone was speaking Spanish on the radio. I'm like, I'm not really that fluent in Spanish. I was like, hey, so Piper Warrior 1234 Sierra Poplar is on taxiing from Charlie, ready for, or holding short on Charlie, ready to depart on 18. And then everyone just, the radio was, everyone was jabbing, then just went silent. And then someone keyed the mic. Piper Warrior 123 Tango, yeah, go to 18, right? They had a really thick accent and everything. I'm like, yeah, there you go. There you go. You needed it. Is there any other industries you see where this is like a main issue? I think aviation's probably, maritime might be a kind of an interesting one to answer Raul's question. Maritime, might have naval stuff, might have some issues with English as far as it's international. Science is another one too. So like my wife, she does biology actually, and then like she's English is the language of science too. So definitely there's some.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I'll just kind of speak in my mind here, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think part of it. So the way that we've approached, like and see this, right? It's so there is the language itself, like in this case, English, right? So yeah, knowing, to speak the language and speak the professional language, right? Which I think, for example, like the ICAO language requirements and training are toward that, right? Do you know the language of your profession, or in the English of your profession, right? And I think that one, it's probably, I mean, in any it crosses many industries, right? But then I think when you talk about communication itself, like in doing that communication in English, it's almost like another language, right? Because it's got its abbreviations, lingo, and that sort of thing. So we've gotten requests and conversations here in the US, for example, from police academies. So you would think, so they're talking usually, their formal language. I mean, it might not seem that formal, right? But they do have, key like abbreviations and things that they have to say, kind of like in a certain way if they're in a certain situation that, again, if you stop to think about them, maybe they're not that complex, but if you're doing them while you're doing 3 or 4 other things, it just becomes one of those 7 things that you're expected, that your brain can keep, going at the same time. So we got that one. We had, like somebody like firefighters, again, for example, again, it's a mix of, like abbreviations, they have to use, particular situation. So use, helping them kind of like with their memory, right? Have your, your mouth get used to rattling them off as opposed to taking too long. I think it's, again, other like maritime, like uses, right, when you're, like talking and communicating. So it's, I think a lot of these, maybe the common thread in there is that you're communicating with people, but you don't see them, right? You don't have that visual, you're actually just your ears that are doing this. So that ability to practice. I mean, those are the handful that we've, run across just from doing this and, having them asking questions.
I will say I was working in manufacturing for a bit, and like we use radios too, and we have our own lingo that's completely separate from aviation, but like we use like, hey, what's your 20? 10-4. We use 10-4 a lot, like, hey, I copy that, and a lot of that kind of transferred from like the ham radio culture to like manufacturing, but also to aviation, because even aviation, we use Roger, you use Wilco, that's another one that we use in aviation. So a lot of the stuff is really like, just being able to talk on the radio is really, it's not just aviation. I think it kind of goes in all the industries as far as like the skill to have the confidence to speak, and just it's like public speaking in a way, but like not. It's like it's kind of, you're still behind a something else, but you're not seeing them in person, but you're still, your voice is being broadcasted on the
Yeah, I mean,
frequency.
probably more in like, yeah, if you're in those settings where you are, like on the, I don't
Plant
know,
floor or
talking to
something like
somebody
that.
like crane operators or, like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually like you're talking to another person. Yeah, but maybe in aviation, maybe it does feel like you're public speaking because there's a lot of people out there listening to you, and you have somebody listening
And it's
to you.
recorded sometimes too. So
Well,
some radios are recorded,
Well, and you have the, the ATC that you're talking to, that they have that power to write you up, right? And not that they would maybe for the radios, but it's an extra intimidation, right? That there
Yeah.
is
You got a
somebody
number to copy here?
with some authority that you're speaking to. So
Cool. Oh, I had another question on radios, but we'll just skip to the last one. So last question here, then we'll kind of end here. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but Charles is over here. He's asking, what affiliate programs do you have for flight school partners? So I know you kind of mentioned that you already text back in the chat here, but for those that are watching this later on in YouTube or whatever you guys watch it on, maybe you can kind of speak on the affiliate programs you have for flight schools.
yeah, so like I mentioned, so the 3 program, it's the kind of like that initial referral one, right? You just tell your students about it, awareness and that sort of thing. Affiliate, so we provide, if you wanted to, like secure like a discount for your students, like we can set something up for you. Your student gets a discount. That one does have, so if you're an affiliate, it's got like a commission, like kickback to the schools themselves. Usually that one, there's some flexibility. We set aside, like a percentage, and then we have some schools that say, hey, we're going to do this like 50-50, right? The students get, like 50 off, and then, the rest of the school 50. We have some schools that have passed it on completely to the students. And then some of them that kind of like keep it to themselves, but they keep it to themselves, they usually will get those, the third kind of like tier, that enterprise access, where the school is buying it directly from us. And then, like the school can resell to the students or just give it to them depending on what their internal kind of like objectives are, right? Like I said, we have some schools that make the part of the package what they provide the students. So they've already bought the license. Hey, this is what you get. And some of them will turn around and kind of either like recoup their cost and do like a markup, like on those, and it's up to them. So, but those are the kind of like the three options there.
Cool. So we talked a lot about, we'll kind of end the call here. Unless there's any more questions. Do you have anything else, Mohammed, before I conclude here?
No, I'm good. Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for everybody that's listening, or they might be listening later. I mean, I can keep on talking on this for 4 hours, so I appreciate your time.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for talking to us about plain English, the challenges of the aviation industry, and pilots. I do think that you guys have a great tool here. It's obviously sticky. I like what Kate said earlier. It's a very sticky name, kind of like Rudder, you know, so it's a sticky name. So we definitely have something alike. Really appreciate your time here. And if you have any questions, anyone that's looking out here, if you have questions about marketing, reach out to Kate. Kate was on this call earlier, or reach out to myself. And then if you have questions about AR Sim, plain English, reach out to Maharm and Kate, and they can answer that. So without further ado, I think we'll end the call here, and then we'll see you guys later.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Maharm.
Bye.